His Sun Group Wealth Partners founder Winnie's son, Fox Business's Deirdre Bolton, and Fox News contributor Gary B. Smith. As Neil loves to say, I ended with you, Gary. I'll start with you. What do you think about the psychology of Apple hitting $1 trillion and whether or not that is going to have a carryover? Looked like it had a little carryover effect in the market today.
I think it definitely does, David. I think it points out, first of all, it points eyes toward Apple. And then when people start to look at Apple and even get past the headlines, they start to see that technology is alive and well, not only in Apple, but obviously in Google, in Netflix, even in Facebook. And, you know, Apple's a company that's not only doing great, but has reinvented itself. I think that's the whole story behind American technology. That's why I'm excited about this economy.
Winnie, there is one thing about Apple. I think it's sometimes your strength can also turn into a weakness. We saw that with GE when, as we were mentioning with Charlie just a moment ago, GE, through Jack Welch, built this huge conglomerate, this multifaceted company, which was in so many different things that in Jack Welch's hands, it was fine. In his successor's hands, it was not so fine. In fact, it was terrible. Apple is now into so many things. It started, of course, making things, the iPhone most famous among them, but also the Macs, et cetera. Now it's into all the service economy. It's into the cloud computing. It's into a lot of stuff. Do you think it might get overextended into what it's involved with?
That's always the biggest concern, right? Because we've seen that happen with companies like Cisco. But in this case, I mean, I think Apple's certainly become a lifestyle brand that the next generation is really excited about. A lot of people were talking before that Apple wouldn't make that transition to be in the hands of millennials and the next generation, but we find that to be not the case. They are now, we found that Apple buyers say that 92% of them are pretty happy owning Apple products, and they don't see themselves transitioning over to an Android product. So,
you know, Deirdre, she brings up a terrific point, which is that it is a bridge between generations. There's so much of what happens, particularly in the high-tech community, that there is no bridge. You know, what my 26-year-old daughter can do and is involved in doing, whether it's some new app that she's using. I can't really catch the hang of it. I still haven't caught on to Instagram.
Yes, you have. You are just fine,
Instagram is still beyond me a little bit.
But
the fact is that Apple is the great bridge. It bridges every generation. It appeals to every kind of audience.
So even people who don't own the stock or who don't like Apple products, they say that their marketing has been just an example of simplicity, right? Simplicity.
That's how it started, right? With
Certainly.
Jobs.
And user friendliness. And I think the question a while back for Apple was, could they go beyond just hardware? And I think the fact that this stock has hit the $1 trillion mark before any other, including Amazon, the answer is yes. Whether it's through iTunes, Apple Care, Apple Pay, the App Store, they really mastered working with developers so that people wanted their products, their apps on the Apple operating system. They made a huge risk in retail, actually, which everybody made fun of them for. Like, oh, you're supposed to be a high-tech company and you're going to open a physical store? What's wrong with you, you guys? This is a misstep. That has been a booming success to the point where we see competitors such as Samsung actually now setting up mobile shops and trying to make inroads at Best Buy to try to compete with that feeling. I think, and actually the New York Times had a fantastic headline saying 21 years ago, this company, according to, of course, the late, great Steve Jobs, was 90 days away from bankruptcy. But it's this constant push of innovation.
People forget.
When you talked about this halo effect, right?
If you I can't think back to when it was on the edge, on the brink. But then and one thing you didn't mention, we got to move on to trade. But Gary B, there's also Apple Pay. Now you're using it's gotten into the financial area. But again, lessons from the past. I remember with GE Financial, there was a time when it was very successful. That didn't happen forever. Nothing is forever in the world of commerce, and there could be a time when it's not right for Apple.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, it's almost inevitable. But remember, even with GE, they were just booted out of the Dow. They were one of the original Dow stocks. So they had a pretty good run, David. I think probably a few more years left for Apple, I'd say.
I would say so. Well, China, meanwhile, saying it will retaliate against further U.S. tariffs. Gary, I'm wondering, is this going to hurt our economic boom?
You know, I guess it depends if it continues to escalate. It looks like right now neither side is standing down. But, of course, we've been through this with Trump and North Korea. It looked like neither side was standing down. North Korea was launching missiles, over Japan, and it all came to nothing. That's what I think this is going to come to. It'll probably come to fruition right around the next election cycle, which would be a real boon.
Yeah.
I don't see it affecting the economy seriously until it really goes nuclear.
Well, and the economy hasn't been affected. And again, there are pullbacks, Winnie, in the stock market from time to time when there's a Trump tweet on China or when there's another threat of more tariffs or whatever. But generally speaking, our economy seems to be strong enough right now because of the tax cuts, because of deregulation, to withstand concerns about trade.
Yes, I agree with you completely on this. I think the economy is strong right now, and I do believe that the Chinese wants to work with us. They love America. Money is still coming in, and
they can't live without us.
Yes, and we're a very friendly country to do business with and to visit and vacation at. So
the question is, Deirdre, the specific concessions that we are trying to get. I mean, there are ways in which China has twisted us around their little finger, or their big finger, I should say. I mean, when a company does business there, they have to adhere to certain rules and regulations that, I shouldn't say no other country, but that most other countries would not count it. For example, you have to sell 51% of your business to the Chinese. You don't have control over your business if you have a business there. You have to somehow include members of the Communist Party in the business structure, in the group of people that work for you in China, and Lord knows what they're up to. You have to concede to give over some of your trade secrets, some of your business secrets to them, whether it's involving technology or management stuff. So there are a lot of things. We have some legitimate concerns. Where is China going to bend on these concerns?
Well, I think your point is well taken in the sense that American businesses are most worried about combating this IP theft, right? If people want to do business in China, they want to be there. But as you pointed out, there has not been a level playing field at all when U.S. businesses do set up shop in China. So that's, I think, what this whole larger conversation about tariffs is really about. You asked where they're going to bend. I mean, if you listen to the administration, their line seems to be that China needs trade more than the U.S. And we talk about this statistic, but in the U.S., we're a very consumer-driven culture. Consumer spending drives 2/3 of GDP. The U.S. people, we consume 80% of what we buy. I'm not going to say we're self-contained because we're not, but we do have an advantage in a way that China does not yet have. So there are people who are saying China does need to become more flexible.
Already, Gary B., China has felt the pain from this. We're seeing reports. It first happened with the stock market. The stock market is, I won't say crushed, but it's come down very significantly. Consumer spending is down to a trickle right now. Investments are way down in China. They're feeling the pain. I think the Trump administration feels that since our economy is booming, theirs is hurting. We've got an advantage, and we can use it in this trade dispute.
Totally agree. I think Deirdre brought up some excellent points, and you bring up the other part. China's feeling it. Right now I feel that, we're the elephant in the room. A lot of their talk almost has to be at this point bluster. We could live without China much easier than China can live without us. Look, there's two big, strong countries here. It just depends on whose ego shuts down first. But I think that we have the trump cards in this case.
All right.
No pun intended.